Good evening, my little creatures of the night. Mr. Wendigo back again, and boy, have I got a tale that'll make your skin crawl tonight. Literally. Let's see what the desert has whispered to me this time. Ah, yes, here we are, New Mexico. The reservation, where the mesas hold secrets older than the roads that cut through them, and the Navajo elders will tell you if you're smart enough to listen that some things out there aren't animals anymore. They used to be, but they wore too many skins and forgot what they were supposed to be. 3 kids, a homemade fort on a mesa, and something in the dark that's been practicing how to sound like their mother. The elders say, never answer a voice at night, even if it sounds like someone you love. And for the love of all that's holy, don't give it time to learn. These kids, they gave it all the time in the world. This is your late night creature feature. And tonight, you're going to learn why forts don't keep you safe when the monster already knows your voice. Before we begin, I'm curious, where are you listening from tonight? Alone in your room? Driving through empty roads? Walking through the woods? Drop a comment and let me know. I like knowing who's out there in the dark with me. Now then, let me tell you about the night the scraping started. Fort Skinwalker, Chapter 1. We called it the fort because calling it a fort made us sound older than we were, made it sound like we had a plan. Jace nailed 2 boards together for a door, and I dragged an old mattress from the porch with Lila. We stacked kindling his dad kept for the stove and hung bean-can lanterns from rusty nails. Took us 3 days to build. 3 days of hauling scrap wood and arguing about where the door should go and whether we needed windows. Jace wanted windows. For ventilation, he said, like he was an architect. Lila wanted a flag. Every fort needs a flag. I just wanted it done before summer ended and school started back up. The mesa behind our trailer gave us a perfect hollow, and when you sat inside that hollow, the wind changed. Didn't sound like wind anymore. Sounded like a secret being told over and over. That's what sold us on it. Ma had been happy that week, singing while she did dishes, making jokes about Dad's cooking. She'd been sad for a while before that her sister had passed that spring, cancer, and Ma carried it like a stone in her pocket. But that week she laughed again, made us cookies, let us stay up late watching movies. Dad had just gotten overtime at the plant, extra $200 a week. He kept talking about maybe getting a new truck, maybe taking us to Albuquerque for the state fair, maybe. He had that hopeful sound in his voice, the one that made you believe things could get better. You swear you'll sleep out here? Jace asked. He had that grin, the one that meant he expected me to chicken out. I was 12. Lila was 9 and fearless in that way kids are when they don't know what night can do to you yet. Yeah, I said, we don't chicken out. Ma laughed when she saw us hauling the mattress across the yard. Skinwalkers don't come for kids who build forts, she said. Said it like skinwalkers were as real and harmless as the mailman. Just part of the landscape. Dad came out with coffee and made a face. Don't be messing with old tales. He said, leave the ghosts for the tourists. He said it the way he always did when Ma talked about the old stories. Like he wanted to protect us from something he didn't quite believe in but couldn't quite dismiss either. They hugged us like we were going off to war instead of 50 feet from the trailer, handed over peanut butter sandwiches wrapped in foil. Ma had cut them diagonal the way we liked. Dad slipped us a flashlight with fresh batteries. Just in case, he said. Lila snuck an extra sandwich into her pocket, grinned at me like she'd pulled off a heist. After dark, the mesa changed colors. Sky went tooth white above the town lights. Scrub cast long shadows that looked like hands reaching. The fort smelled like hot wood in the linoleum from the mattress cover we'd ripped up. We lit the bean can lantern and told stories. Ghost stories. Robber stories. The kind Jace thought would make Lila squeal. We told them in bursts with the lantern between us like a tiny sun. At some point the stories turned into dares. Go outside. Leave the door cracked. Be quiet. Listen. I wanted to be brave about it. Jace wanted to be braver. He pushed the board aside an inch and looked out. The world wasn't the same as it had been at dusk. Quieter, not regular quiet, the kind of silence that waits. "You hear that?" Lila whispered. I did, soft at first, a whooshing sound like breath moving through tall grass, then something far off scraping dry mesquite, slow, testing, like fingernails on skin. Jace's grin died. He closed the board fast. Probably a raccoon. Sounded small when he said it. We stayed up trading dares and imitating coyote yips. The fort felt like our own planet. At some point I dozed off and dreamed the mesa opened like a mouth. When I woke, the lantern had burned down to nothing. Jace was awake, hands folded, like he'd been standing guard. Lila's breath smelled like peanut butter and sleep. "Shh," Jace said. We listened. There was a sound that didn't belong, closer now, soft, like wet fingers trailing across the trailer roof. Somewhere above us an animal cried out. Wasn't a coyote. The cry was thin and long and wrong, like the throat making it had forgotten how. "Stay still," I said before Jace could. We didn't know why. Felt like a rule. We obeyed it, propped our heads on the mattress and waited. The scraping moved, roof to ground, passed around the rim of the mesa without direction, stopped where the mesquite shadowed the trailer, started again, closer, like nails on a tin bucket. Then clicks, small staccato bursts. Lila squeezed my hand. "What is it?" "Probably a rack," Jace started, swallowed. His spine went stiff. Eyes darted to the thin crack in the fort where moonlight silvered the ground. The sound that came next is the one I can't wash out. Not a voice at first, a wet, sliding breath, like someone pressed their mouth to dirt and forced air back through roots. Tasted like mud in my head, then layered on top, a whisper, not words. Just cadence, rhythm, syllables trying to be human speech and failing, like a kid copying an old person's cough. We didn't move. Not because we were brave, because our bodies learned something older than fear. If something's trying to see you, pretend you're not there. A shape came from the darkness, 2 points first, shiny, reflective, then joints, an animal thinning at the hips. It didn't move like anything I knew. When it stepped into the weak lantern light, it was wrong. Legs too long, shoulders bowed like it might fold in half. Its skin shone like bone rubbed with oil. Lila made a sound, tiny, like an animal dying. Jace put a hand over her mouth. We pressed into the mattress like the fabric might swallow us. The thing came to the trailer's shadow and tilted its head, listening. Then it did something worse than looking. It mimicked, copied our breaths, sucked air and let it out with the same rhythm as Lila's chest, trying to match us, learn the cadence. It lifted a hand, long, thin, fingers that might have been fingers if fingers were made of flakes and salt. Didn't touch, just tapped the trailer roof. Tap, tap, tap. Each sound made our hearts jump so loud I thought I could hear them pounding. "Do we run?" Jace breathed. I couldn't answer. Voice felt like a twig in my throat. If we bolted, it would know, would see the panic. If we didn't, maybe it would lose interest. Maybe it would leave. It tapped again, leaned close enough I could see its face. No eyes, just hollows that reflected the bean can light like broken pennies. Where a mouth should be was a seam, thin, puckered. The thing tilted toward us, and a voice slid out. Wasn't our kind of voice. Was someone attempting our words, twisting sounds like rope. "You sleep," it said. The syllables pulled through a throat that had never shaped them before. Our world narrowed, the scrape of a nail, whisper of cloth, our own breathing. I felt old, older than 12, because I understood it could copy things it heard. If it learned our voices, it would learn our names. When it knew our names, it could call us into places we didn't understand. The scraping moved away. The breathing faded. We lay there until the lantern died to smoke. In the dark, Lila whispered, "It'll come back tomorrow, won't it?" I squeezed her hand. "Maybe." Dad and Ma were there in the morning like nothing happened, made coffee, fixed breakfast, smiled like the world hadn't been rearranged. I watched Ma's mouth. She had charcoal on her thumb she didn't see. I thought of the creature copying small mistakes like that. Still felt like a story, something we could name and laugh at. We packed up the fort when Ma said the sun was wasting the day. I wanted to tell her about the tapping. The words caught in my throat like a cough. The world seemed normal until we walked past the trailer. The dog was gone. Ma's old mutt never left the porch, always chained there. That morning the chain was empty, no collar, nothing. "Probably wandered off," Dad said, hosing dishes. Voice had that easy sound of someone who controls facts. I wanted to argue. Instead, I watched the mesa until my eyes burned. That night we went back to the fort, not because we wanted to, because we didn't know what else to do. The sleep we tried was thin and twitchy. The scraping came back, softer, more patient. The thing had learned. It imitated the wind now. When wind blew, it matched the grass rustle so perfectly you couldn't tell which was real. When it spoke, the syllables were slower, tasting words. It left after a while, not all the way. In the morning, I found a line of scuffed earth from the rim to the trailer. Something had dragged across soil so slowly its skin peeled like old paint. The line led to the dog's collar, split cleanly in two. Ma cried, small, private. Dad patted her back with a shaking hand. Someone must have taken it. Like there was a person who took old dogs, not a thing that grew by copying. That night we locked the trailer door, shoved furniture against it. I kept imagining the thing watching our barricade and laughing without sound. Lila put her head on my chest, breathed slow and even, imitation of peace. Night had been rewritten in one script: hold still, don't make noise, never answer when something calls. We made it through the week. The scraping grew familiar, like a rumor you can't ignore. It learned our routine, our boots, our voices, the names we said to each other. Sometimes when Lila giggled, the scraping would stutter, testing the cadence of laughter, mimicking a cough, then our coughs, then trying to make a laugh. Third night a sound came that even adults couldn't pretend was animal. A voice, low, almost like Ma's, coming from outside saying in perfect ordinary tones, "Ma? Ma? Is that you? Ma?" Dad's shoulders snapped like wire. He went to the door, opened it. Night poured in with a smell like earth turned for the first time. Ma's voice, exact, asking like she was lost. We went quiet. Dad stepped onto the porch. "Ma, you okay?" A figure stood at the edge of the light, too lanky, hair matted, wearing Ma's old work jacket. For a second, my bones forgot their names. It looked like her because its face tried so hard. The dip of cheek, the way she held her jaw when she smiled. But wrong. Skin sanded smooth in places, pocked like it had been pelted with stones. Where a cheek should blush, the skin was translucent, eyes missing the shine Ma's had. Dad shouted like someone was stealing the world. The thing stepped forward, said in a voice like Ma learning to talk, "Daddy, I got lost." People move wrong when grief hits. They don't think. They act like their hearts have muscles of their own. Dad didn't move away. He stepped forward, reached out for the figure the way you reach for your dead to make them real. I wanted to scream for him to stop. The figure's head dropped like a puppet with cut strings, tumbled forward, surged. Its hand caught him like a vice. Sharp, wet sound, wrong angles. I saw Dad's face change, confusion to something else, comprehension, recognition, the bitter knowledge he'd been tricked. He tried to pull away, but the thing's fingers hooked under his jaw. Its mouth opened and the sound was bones grinding together. the thing's other hand longer than it should be wrapped around Dad's throat, not squeezing, holding. Its fingers pressed into the soft spots under his ears and Dad's eyes went wide. His mouth opened but nothing came out. The thing tilted its head like it was listening to his pulse, learning the rhythm. Dad's hands came up, grabbed at the thing's wrists. The skin there felt wrong. He could feel it even from where we stood, papery and cold and covered in something like fine grit. His fingers sank in slightly, like pressing into wet sand. The thing leaned closer, its face Ma's face that wasn't Ma's face hovering inches from Dad's. The seam where its mouth was opened wider. Inside was darkness and the smell of turned earth and something sweet rotting. It breathed in. Long pull, sucking air from Dad's mouth like tasting it. Dad's chest collapsed inward. His hands on the thing's wrists went slack. The thing breathed in again and Dad's skin started to change color. Gray, then grayish blue. His lips cracked and bled at the corners. No, Ma screamed from inside. The thing didn't stop. It pressed its mouth that awful seam against Dad's forehead and made a sound like roots pulling from wet ground. Dad's body jerked once, twice. His legs gave out, but the thing held him up by the throat and face, casual, like holding a rag doll. When it finally let go, Dad crumpled, hit the porch like a sack of grain. His face was wrong, sunken, eyes open but seeing nothing, mouth slack. There was blood from his nose. Black in the porch light. His chest moved barely, but each breath sounded like wet paper tearing. The thing that wore Ma's jacket stood there. It reached down with those two long fingers and touched Dad's hair, gentle, like petting something. Then it looked up at us through the screen door. It smiled. That smile had no human muscle behind it, just the idea of a smile, eager, like someone who'd read about smiles and wanted to try one out. "Daddy needs help," it said in Ma's voice. We ran. Lila screamed and someone grabbed a board. Someone else hit the thing until it slumped. For a second we thought it was over. Dad's back was broken where the thing held him. His breathing was wrong, wet, bubbling. Ma wasn't there, real Ma. There was only smell like wet soil and a smear of hair across the porch floor. Math became terrible and precise. Dad needed a hospital. We called for help. Neighbors came with flashlights. One crouched by Dad and whispered, "Skinwalker." I didn't know if I believed the word or feared the shape. Sirens carried Dad off into the distance. Neighbors left. We barricaded the trailer, said names of our people like rumors we wanted. True, Dad is at the hospital. Ma is gone. The thing that wore her face left a hollow where loving hands used to be. The scraping never left that week. It learned our sobs, copied them, watched us, tried to imitate grief like a child tracing pictures. "Seventh night," Lila said in a voice small and exhausted. "Let's sleep at the fort. The fort knows us." I understood. If something learned our trailer, maybe the fort was still ours. We crawled back into that crooked shelter, told each other the same stories from the first night, about kings and forts and the moon. Shut our eyes, tried to be too small for the world to notice. The scraping stopped. Nothing but breathing and faint wood smoke smell. We drifted toward sleep. In the small hours the wind changed. A new noise slid through the boards, a whisper like someone copying prayers. The thing had moved on from rhythms. Tonight it was copying syllables we said when we said names. When we woke, the sun was clean and bright, sky ordinary blue. The trailer door was open. Dad was gone from the hospital. Neighbors' trucks were packed. The silence they left was heavy. We went to the trailer like ants to a body. The floor was smeared with small footprints going out, none coming back. In the kitchen where Dad left his mugs had a dark, wet ring, smelled like iron and salt. We called police, called family. They said things adults say to make sense of impossible shapes. The coroner came, turned hands over, said nothing. Nobody found a body. Nobody found Ma. The hospital said they'd patch Dad, said he'd live. but words came out folded and strange. He couldn't remember where Ma went, couldn't remember Lila's face or Jace's grin. Could say my name stuck like a coin in his mouth, then drift away like fog. Social workers came. We were small people in a house of evidence. We packed the fort into a box of memories, carried it to a cousin's place across the county. The mesa was behind us, still, like nothing happened. We left with a bag and heads full of the sound of nails on tin. Chapter 2. The fort became a story adults used to fill silences. Kids will be kids, they said. Trauma does strange things. But secrets with teeth are the worst kind. Rules nobody writes but everyone learns. A thing that copies must be seen to learn. A thing that copies is patient. The patient ones wait long enough to learn your whole life. We stayed with Aunt Marisol now. Small house farther from the reservation. Yard of broken lawn chairs and a tired swing. Jace went to school and tried to be the right kind of boy. The kind that got in trouble in small ways. Ways smaller than grief. Lila sketched in a battered notebook, filling pages with stick figures and heavy black lines. I tried to patch myself together by doing small things right. Sweeping, making tea, delivering Marisol's groceries. Nights were different weather. I'd lie awake and listen, not to scraping anymore, to the idea of it, the thought that maybe wherever we went, something had learned the map of our faces. One night Jace came into the room like a shadow. "Let's go see the fort," he said. Had that look I used to think was bravery. Now I knew it was grief pretending to be courage. Need to know it isn't still there. I didn't want to go. Maybe because I believed in leaving things behind. Maybe because I wanted to hold on to small, sane things. But he was my brother. When he said my name, it was an order wrapped in love. Lila wanted to come. We slid out from under covers and walked back across town in the hush of night like thieves. The mesa loomed, dark lip against the sky. The fort looked smaller than memory, a thumbprint pressed into dirt. We crept closer, found the mattress sagged, boards chewed in places, dotted with small crusted stains. Bean can lantern on its side, cold, a ring of black dust where flame had licked air. Jace laughed, ugly sound, reached down and picked up fabric. Ma's shirt, or something like it. Threads frayed, but we could still smell the soap she used. I wanted to smash it, tear it up, couldn't find the motion. The fort felt like a map other people traced over. "See?" Jace said, holding the shirt. "It didn't take the fort, just found things." He folded it like making a prayer. Wind came. For the slimmest heartbeat, I forgot there's no sound like it. Someone reading your life back to you one sentence at a time. Something moved at the mesa rim, a shape that stepped like a man, opened like a book, fell back into a new shape, wearing a jacket that might have belonged to a hunter. Had the silhouette of something human once, edited now. It stepped into moonlight. Its face was a collage, a child's nose sewn to a middle-aged mouth, an eye from a neighbor long dead, a cheek from someone gone months. It held something in its hands that glittered like bone. "Hey," Jace called. I wanted to smooth that sound out of him. The thing looked at us, smiled, one of those smiles with no human muscle, eager, like someone who read the last chapter and couldn't wait to tell you. "You left me a chair," it said, using our words, our tone, learning. We ran because the thing learned our jokes, our cadence, the lullabies Ma hummed, because it wouldn't be content with dogs and chairs. It wanted the taste of living, wanted the courage you think belongs to you. We made plans, small, desperate. Hide, don't answer, keep close. Put locks on windows, set up signals, 3 taps for go, 2 for stay, 4 for help. For days it worked, the scraping reduced to an echo at sleep's edge. We took that small victory like medicine. Then it imitated a phone call. I remember the sound exactly. Ringing was wrong, too polite, cadence of a neighbor, then a voice. Ma's voice lashed to a ringtone. "Honey, I forgot my keys." The voice was exact. The thing had listened to voicemails, folded them into its mouth. Jace froze with a plate in his hand, went to the door with curiosity that forgets danger. We stood in the hallway, watched the front window. The thing wasn't at the door. It used our phone lines, our recorded messages, echoes of conversations, rearranged them like cards, learned how to call our names and ask for things we wanted. First person to answer was Mrs. Ortega, our neighbor. She opened her door in slippers, squinted at whoever stood on the porch. "You need anything?" she asked. The thing it had practiced smiles said, "I'm just looking for my girl. My girl is missing." Mrs. Ortega's face softened. She called police, called other neighbors, wanted to help. The thing had learned to call small mercies like a bell. When police got there, the thing wasn't on the porch. It learned to use people then leave when law came close. Officers found no one. After an hour of bright flashlights and clipped questions, the calls slowed. Town had a new rumor, maybe a drifter, maybe someone looking for relatives. People made soup for us, left casserole on our steps. People are kind in predictable ways. That night a knock came, 3 soft, polite knocks. A voice outside said in perfect my impression, "Can I come in? I'm so cold." We didn't open. Sat in the dark, pretended the world hadn't been rearranged. Knocking stopped, started again, child's voice asking for a lost toy, then Ma with the small list of errands. Didn't matter. We didn't open, didn't answer. Next morning, Mrs. Ortega found old shoes on her porch, worn like Ma's. Laces knotted the sloppy way she did. Jace took them like an accusation, left them at the fort, piling them on the mattress like offerings. We tried to be brave, tried to count days like a ledger we could balance. But you can't ledger grief away. The thing, clever, patient, learning, had cruelty that worked slowly, didn't take people in a thunderclap, doctored the edges of your life so you wouldn't notice until you'd been bitten. It began calling with names of old lovers, cousins we rarely spoke to, imitated teachers and creditors and strangers with helpful tones, learned to send recipe messages, speak like those who carry grief in calm voices. When it found a small opening, a door propped for smoke, a neighbor distracted by soup, it pushed through like water under a floorboard. First person stolen gently was Mr. Alvarez down the block. He answered a call from what sounded like his daughter's voice, went to the porch to see her. Didn't come back. Neighbors said he simply walked away. Some said he was tired. Week later, his trailer was empty. His dog howled at the window. There was a smear of something dark across the threshold where he left. The thing didn't strike with teeth when it took Mr. Alvarez. It strangled slowly. Lay on his chest at night, breathing where his wife used to breathe, trying on her habits, learning how she tied shoes, learned until it could be her at precise moments when he wouldn't resist. That was its genius, imitation to exhaustion, deception so patient you handed yourself over like a gift. Mrs. Brennan was next, or maybe she was before Alvarez time got slippery then, days blurring into each other like wet paint. She lived alone after her husband died, had a son in Colorado who called every Sunday at 3 in the afternoon, regular as clockwork. They'd talk for 20 minutes. She'd tell him about her garden. He'd tell her about his kids. One Sunday, the call came at 2:45. She answered because it was her son's number on the caller ID, his voice, exact. "Ma, I'm at the airport. Flight got in early. Can you pick me up?" She was so happy. Hadn't seen him in 2 years. Put on her good coat, got in her car. They found the car at the airport parking lot 3 days later. Keys in the ignition, driver's door open, her purse on the passenger seat with her wallet still inside, $63 cash. Credit cards, her phone, but no Mrs. Brennan. Security footage showed her getting out of the car, walking toward the terminal. Then she stopped, turned around, walked back the other way, toward the long-term parking. The part where the lights don't quite reach. The footage showed her walking into shadows, then nothing. Her son in Colorado had been at work all day, never called, never came to New Mexico, didn't even know his mother was dead until the police contacted him. The call had come from inside the car somehow. That's what the phone company said. The call originated from her own cell phone, calling itself. We tried to warn others, made signs, left them on doors. Don't answer voices at night. Verify first. Call back. Check. Called the sheriff. Told him in clipped, desperate syllables of people who know they sound crazy. Sheriff listened with kindness honed by mundane worries. No evidence, he said. No forced entry. He meant well. You could see it in his eyes. But he wrote it in a notebook and put the notebook on his shelf. Promised patrols that never came when you needed them. At night, the thing's mimicked voices buzzed like loose radio. Once it learned a child's ringtone, it could call houses, make you believe Aunt Marisol went out for milk. Once it learned breakfast cadence, it could say, "Come outside, it's just the weather," and someone polite would step into the yard to see. The Gutierrez family lost their teenage son that way. Manuel, 16, good kid, helped his dad with the cars. It called his phone at midnight, his girlfriend's voice. She was crying. Manny, please, I'm scared. I'm outside your house. Please come get me." Manuel grabbed his jacket, ran outside in his socks. His mom heard the door, got up to check, found the front door wide open, cold air pouring in, Manuel's phone on the porch, still connected to the call, on the other end, breathing. "Manuel," she called into the night. The breathing stopped. Then her own voice came back to her through the phone. Manuel, where are you?" Perfect imitation, her exact tone, the way she said his name when she was worried. She dropped the phone, backed into the house, locked the door. They found Manuel's socks the next morning, one on the porch, one halfway down the street, both soaked with dew, no sign of Manuel. His girlfriend was asleep at home the whole night, never made a call, her phone logs proved it. The call came from inside the Gutierrez house somehow, from the landline in the kitchen that hadn't worked in 3 years. We lost things in small pieces: a neighbor, a husband, a dog, a day, a son. People slept with knives on bedside tables. Windows stayed shuttered till noon. We stopped going to the market unless it was mid-afternoon and sun hung in a certain place. The thing never attacked obvious. It stole like smoke, learned to pretend to be anyone it needed, learned to say your name in a voice that made your throat slack and resolution drip away. The town started to fall apart after that, not in one big collapse, in small ways. People stopped trusting each other. When someone knocked on your door, you didn't just look through the peephole anymore. You asked questions only the real person would know. Secret things, childhood memories, inside jokes. But even that stopped working, because the thing learned those too. Mr. Lopez's wife came home from the store one afternoon, knocked on the door. He asked her their anniversary date. She answered correctly. He asked her where they'd gone on their honeymoon. She answered correctly. He asked her what she'd whispered to him on their wedding night. She answered correctly. He let her in. 2 hours later, the real Mrs. Lopez came home, found the front door open, found her husband sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. When she touched his shoulder, he screamed. "You're not her," he kept saying. "You're not her. She was already here." They took him to the hospital, sedated him. When he calmed down, he told them everything, how the first wife had sat with him, talked with him, knew everything. Then, halfway through the conversation, her face started to slip, like a mask coming loose. Underneath was something else, something that smiled wrong. It had left before the real wife got home, just walked out the back door, casual, like it had all the time in the world. Because it did. Then one afternoon, bright and clean, Lila and I were walking back from the store. Sky was that ordinary blue that makes you forget night exists, the kind of blue that feels safe, We'd gotten milk and bread and those cheap frozen burritos Marisol liked. Normal errand, normal day. Then the world went quiet. Not regular quiet, wrong quiet. I stopped walking. Lila bumped into me. "What?" she asked. "Listen." Nothing, no birds singing, no insects buzzing, no dogs barking in the distance, just silence pressed against our ears like hands. Then we looked up. Birds. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, black against the sky like someone had dumped ink across the blue, all flying one direction, not the lazy V formation of geese or the scattered pattern of sparrows. This was panic made visible. They weren't just flying, they were fleeing. The sound was a roar like wind through a tunnel, wings beating so fast the air itself seemed to vibrate. Sparrows and crows and hawks that would normally tear each other apart all moving together like they'd been given the same terrible order. East, fast, panicked. The shadow they cast moved across the ground like a stain. "What the hell?" Lila whispered. I looked down at the yard, and that's when I saw them. A squirrel bolted past our feet, then another, then three more. Not the lazy scampering they usually did, this was pure terror. They ran like the ground behind them was on fire. Then a rabbit, then another, then a whole family of them, babies and all, hopping so fast they were practically flying themselves, all moving the same direction as the birds, east, away from the mesa. A fox darted across the road, didn't even look at us. Fox should have stopped for prey, should have calculated, should have been smart. Instead, it ran like its tail was on fire, like something behind it was worse than anything ahead. I saw a coyote then, full daylight. Coyotes don't come out in full daylight. It loped across someone's yard with its tongue hanging out, foam at the corners of its mouth, eyes rolling white. Even the insects, ants streaming across the sidewalk in a black river 3 inches wide, beetles tumbling over each other, grasshoppers hopping in the same direction in waves. A deer crashed through someone's fence, didn't slow down, just smashed through the chain link like it was paper and kept running, blood on its shoulder from the wire, didn't care. Everything with legs or wings was running east, away from the mesa, away from our old trailer, away from the fort. The store owner, Mr. Chen, came out and looked up. "Earthquake coming?" he said. "Animals know." But there was no earthquake. Ground was steady. Sky was clear except for that massive black river of birds still pouring overhead. "Animals know things people forgot," Marisol said from the porch when we got back. Her voice was quiet, scared. She was holding a rosary. I'd never seen her hold a rosary before. "Know what?" Lila asked. Marisol looked toward the mesa. Know when something's awake that shouldn't be. She was right. The scraping came that night harder than before, louder, more insistent, like whatever it was had finished practicing and was ready for the main event. One winter midnight the call came for Jace. It used Ma's voice, clear, exact, pleading. "Jace, where did you put the lantern? I need to check the fuse." He answered like a child who trusts a mother's voice. Started toward the door. Lila grabbed him. "Don't go." He looked at her. For the briefest instant his face was Jace's, then something in his eyes changed, slackened, like he was hearing music we couldn't. He smiled. Wrong smile. Learned smile. "It's fine," he said. "It's just Ma." "It's not Ma," I screamed, grabbed his other arm. The door opened on its own. Wind poured in with that smell. Earth turned for the first time. Sweet rot underneath. A figure stood on the porch. Lanky, wrong proportions, but wearing clothes we recognized. Jace's old jacket, the one he'd lost months ago. "Come on," it said in Jace's voice. "Perfect. Let's go to the fort." Jace pulled toward it like being reeled in on a line. We held him. Lila wrapped around his waist. I had his arm. We pulled back. "Jace, look at it," I yelled. "Really look." He blinked. For a second the fog cleared. He looked at the figure on the porch. Its face was trying to be his. Same hair, same nose, but the eyes were hollows, the skin translucent in places. You could see something moving underneath, like worms. Like the thing was made of borrowed parts held together by will. Jace's face went white. "Oh God," he breathed. The thing on the porch tilted its head. "Jace," it said again, still his voice, "don't you want to see Ma?" "No," Jace screamed. He pulled back. We all pulled, stumbled backward into the house. The thing stepped forward, over the threshold, into Marisol's house. It moved wrong, joints bending directions they shouldn't, slow, testing each step, learning how to walk on our floors. Marisol came out of her room with a shotgun, old double barrel her husband left her. Didn't say a word, just fired. The blast hit the thing in the chest. It stumbled back. A hole opened up where its sternum should be, but nothing came out. No blood, just dust. Black powder that smelled like burned hair and old earth. The thing looked down at the hole, tilted its head, like it was curious. Then it looked up at Marisol, smiled that wrong smile. "Thank you," it said in her dead husband's voice. "I've been trying to come home." Marisol's hands shook. The shotgun wavered. "You're not Miguel," she whispered. "I could be," it said. It took a step forward. The hole in its chest was already filling in, dust swirling back together like smoke in reverse. We ran. Out the back door, through the yard, didn't stop until we hit the neighbor's house, Mr. Reyes. He took us in, locked his doors, called the sheriff. By the time anyone got to Marisol's house, the thing was gone. Marisol was sitting on her porch, shotgun in her lap, staring at nothing. It knew his voice, she kept saying. It knew exactly how Miguel said my name. They took her to the hospital. Shock, they said. We knew better. The thing had learned it couldn't take us by force. We'd fight, we'd run, we'd shoot. So it was trying something else now. It was learning to make us want to come. Chapter 3. The desert keeps secrets because the desert has time. It waits, buries things in slow sand, and exhales them back when it pleases. If you want to know what happens when a thing that copies learns a whole town, picture this. All the small things people think are private being rearranged into single patient logic, voices forming a choir. Bits of Ma, Mr. Alvarez, Aunt Marisol's husband Miguel, sung in keys that make your neck rise. That winter the mesa shivered with wind that smelled like rust. The thing had been quiet, practicing, maybe, growing, folding in like a patchwork coat. We had our plans, doors bolted, kids inside, lights on. We were a town made of whispers and barricades. The night it came back to the mesa, it brought 100 voices. I was at Mr. Reyes's kitchen table with Lila and coffee that tasted like a dream you almost remember. The radio clicked on by itself, then one voice, then another, then more. A perfect, horrible choir. "Is that you?" a voice called through static. "Is that how you left me?" 100 lines at once. Radio glowed like something alive. We left the house, moving into dark with flashlights like tiny comets. The mesa was bone-colored in the distance. The fort was still there, old bruise against dirt. Around it, people had gathered. Not our people at first. Shapes, neighbors who'd lost things. Faces hard with the same hunted look our family wore. Sheriff Ochoa was there. That's when we knew it was serious. He'd brought 3 deputies, all of them armed, all of them looking like they wished they were anywhere else. "This ends tonight," Ochoa said, trying to sound confident, came out shaky instead. We called them together by candlelight, became a smaller town inside a town, maybe 30 people total. Some I recognized, some I didn't. All of them carrying the same expression, trapped animals making a final stand. Mr. Reyes had his hunting rifle, Mrs. Chen had a machete, the Lopez brothers had baseball bats, Deputy Martinez had a shotgun she kept checking and rechecking like she didn't trust it to still be there. Sheriff drove his cruiser up with a beam like a sword. People held rifles, shotguns, kitchen knives. Those weapons felt small against what we knew. It began with a voice in dry air. Ma's voice, clear and right, calling our names, calling Dad's name. Jace's voice joined, soft, insistent, repeating something about the lantern. People stepped out into the open to answer. "Stay together," Ochoa yelled. "Nobody moves alone." But the voices were too good, too perfect. "Missus." Chen started walking toward the mesa before anyone could grab her. "That's my husband," she kept saying. "That's Henry. I know Henry's voice." Lopez grabbed her arm, held her back. She fought him, crying. The thing wanted people to come to the mesa, to flatten them into a chorus of memory. We moved like a pack, staying together, eyes on the dark. For a while there was only the voice, slow, horrible poetry of things the thing had learned and arranged. Then it opened its mouth, walked forward. We could see its joints weren't made for human logic, moved like a puppet whose strings forgot the rules. When it stood up, it unfolded into an approximation of a woman wearing Ma's coat stitched with scraps of others' clothing. Its face turned to us in the lantern light, like a map of everything it had eaten and copied. Mr. Alvarez's crooked smile, a neighbor's laugh, the softness of Jace's brow, Mrs. Brennan's nose, Henry Chen's eyes. But the map was wrong. Where a mouth should open, there were teeth for tearing. Skin between features wasn't skin, was a film like old parchment. In some places you could see through it, see something moving underneath. Worms, maybe, or muscle that didn't belong to any animal we knew. "Jesus Christ," Deputy Martinez whispered. First shot rang out. Ochoa fired at its chest. Pellet blew out dust that smelled like old soil. We thought it might be stopped, that, like everything else, it could be ended by violence. The thing stumbled, tilted its head. In that tiny inclination, 100 voices came out at once, voices of those it learned, those it hadn't. Our town's history spilled from it in syllables. "Give us back our children," it said in a dozen tones. The thing didn't bleed like a man. Where bullets struck it bruised and flaked, skin peeled like sand through a guillotine. When someone ran forward and slashed with a knife, the blade stuck with a sound like paper tearing, withdrew like the material was new and not meant to hold iron. Our weapons made the sound of nothing working. More shots. Martinez fired. Mr. Reyes fired. The Lopez brothers ran forward, swinging their bats. The bats connected, made a sound like hitting a leather bag full of dust. The thing's skin dented where they struck but didn't break. "Fall back," Ochoa screamed. "Everyone fall back." Too late. The thing moved fast then, faster than something that size should move. It reached out with those long fingers and grabbed Mr. Reyes by the shoulder. He screamed, tried to pull away. The thing's fingers sank into his skin like pressing into dough. Where they touched his skin started to change color. Gray spreading out from each fingertip like bruises blooming and fast forward. Mr. Reyes brought his rifle up, jammed it against the thing's chest, fired. The blast opened a hole the size of a dinner plate. Dust and something wet and dark poured out. The thing didn't let go. It pulled Mr. Reyes closer, wrapped its other arm around him, started to squeeze. We could hear his ribs cracking. Pop, 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 like someone breaking kindling for a fire. Mr. Reyes's mouth opened, but only blood came out, black in the flashlight beams. His legs kicked once, twice, then went still. The thing held him for another moment, like savoring it. Then it opened its mouth wider than any mouth should open and pressed it against Mr. Reyes's forehead. Breathed in. Long pool like sucking through a straw. Mr. Reyes's body collapsed inward, skin going loose, eyes sinking into skull, cheeks hollowing out, like the thing was drinking something vital out of him. something that wasn't blood or air, but whatever makes a person a person. When it finally dropped him, Mr. Reyes hit the ground like an empty coat. His face was a skull wrapped in gray paper, his mouth open in a scream that never finished. Martinez emptied her shotgun into the thing. 5 shots, 5 holes opening up. The thing stumbled back, looked down at itself, then up at us. Smiled that wrong smile. The holes were already closing, dust swirling back together like smoke in reverse. Panic is a bad teacher. Makes you scatter, makes you small. People broke ranks. Some fled toward trucks, others called names. The chorus answered with private pleas and promises. Those who heard their loved ones bent like they might go, or cut off by hands of someone they thought they recognized. Lila clung to me, nails biting my sleeve. "We have to help them." We ran toward the fort, then away, light bobbing like moths grabbing flame. The thing used dark to assemble voices and faces into a lure. I saw him then. Jace, standing under a juniper away from the fort, still wearing his pajamas. He raised his hand like insisting he was fine. But when I slammed the flashlight toward him, the beam caught his forearm. Looked like paper pressed into flame. A neighbor stumbled forward, cried his name. Jace's face twisted. For a second it was Jace. Then, like flipping a page, it became the thing's idea of Jace. "Don't!" I screamed. He smiled. That smile that learned smiles by reading them in trouble. Took 2 steps toward the mesa. Lila lunged, grabbed his ankle. The thing, the real thing, stepped forward in the same motion. With one long reach, it folded Jace into itself. I watched my brother disappear into a shape that hummed with his laugh and our mother's lullaby. Not a swallowing, an incorporation. Parts of him rearranged, re-sung into the chorus. We yelled, beat on it with anything we had. People thumped and cursed and struck until fists hurt like rocks. We tried to tear Jace out. Where his skin had been was not skin, was film that wouldn't hold. People make bargains facing impossible things. I made them too. Swear you'll come back, Jace. Swear you'll sing and not go. I promised. I lied, bargaining with words that had no purchase on monsters. The thing looked at us, learned the sound of bargaining. It answered in Jace's voice, soft, clear, full of things he loved. "I'm sorry," it said. The words were his, ones I'd heard in dark when he confessed small worries. The thing had learned guilt, sewn that shape into its voice, used it as a hook, then a wet, ripping sound. Something long slithered across ground, sound like marrow tearing. The thing cracked open like rotten fruit, small pieces of flesh and memory and sand spilled out. People screamed. Song of 100 voices rose, tangled into noise like a dying radio. I remember flashes, Lila on the ground, hands pressed to mouth, Mr. Reyes holding his head, screaming in a way that matched every voice the thing ever mimicked, a shotgun blast that did nothing, a scream that filled the sky. I remember the smell, sharp iron and sweet rot of something that had been human. We tried everything, burned things, called priests, old women who knew the language and said prayers that tasted of salt. Some said cut out the tongue, others lit sage, went around town. None of it held long. The thing learned, adapted. At one point it coalesced into a dozen faces, faces of those we loved. Combined image stepped forward like bargaining. "We only want to be with them," it sang. "We only want to belong." "Then go," a man shouted. "Leave us alone." It cocked its head like a dog hearing music. "You have taken from us," it said. "You have learned how to lose." Paused. Then, with a voice that stitched our names like thread, "You taught me how to sleep, child." It used words we'd given it in the fort, dares and whispers. In that moment I understood terrible balance. The thing hadn't only learned to take our sounds, it learned to use them as permission. Every voice we'd ignored, every late-night voicemail, every time we answered the door for a familiar voice and didn't check, those had been its teachers. What took Jace wasn't teeth or claws, was the way the town let its guard down, one borrowed voice, one face we trusted, one small hesitation. Men wept, tried to pull him out, found hands full of sand and echo of his name, tried to piece his face back like a puzzle. Pieces were wrong. We fought until breath left our bodies, until elbows bruised and wrists ached and moon slid like a silver coin behind cloud. Dawn came weak and yellow. The thing didn't vanish. It folded back into the mesa like a creature slinking into a burrow, carrying its chorus of voices like stolen flags. Jace didn't return. We found later in the folds where Mesa met Scrub a scrap of his pajama shirt twisted with a neighbor's sweater and a bit of Ma's scarf. Coroner said there wasn't enough to hold an autopsy. I kept that scrap rolled in my jacket pocket like a lie I wore to sleep. Town was smaller after. People left, doors boarded, kids kept inside. We learned new rituals. Never answer a voice at night. Always call twice and verify. Leave lights on in shifts. Never go alone. Sheriff took names and numbers. Left little patrols to drive through once an evening. Said what adults do when things are incomprehensible. No evidence he could lock on, but we could be careful. Town listened. Adjusted. But out there on the mesa, something practiced our songs in dark, sewing them together into something that could pass as human. It stitched 1,000 small truths into a voice. It waited. Months later, at the edge of winter, I came across a circle of empty chairs on a neighbor's porch. Each chair had a name carved in wood. Ma, Dad, Jace, Mr. Alvarez. Arranged like at a family table, like expecting a return. On the table sat a plate with 2 sandwiches and a small doll made of lint and thread. Felt like a scene set for a punchline we never got. I heard whispering then, soft, layered. My brother's laugh, Ma humming a song she used to hum when dishes were done, the neighbor calling his wife. The chorus had become polished. I did what I could. Left the town, took Lila to a cousin in a place where night smelled different and the mesa was just a story told in history class. We changed our numbers, moved our mail, burned old shirts and stomped ashes into dirt. It helped a little. Helped until the day I walked by a thrift store window and thought I saw a jacket I knew in a pile of clothes, Ma's hand-me-down. For a second, the shop mannequin looked like her. Sound of her laugh was in my head like a stuck record. You learn to live with the uncanny the way you learn to live with missing teeth. You arrange your mouth to cover gaps. But remember this. In quiet, dark places where people keep things, houses, forts, memory, there is something patient and riffling. It will copy accents, call names, use your voice to lure you out. It will practice for years, memorize manners, learn to hold a cup the way your hand does. When it's ready, it won't always steal with violence. Sometimes it will steal with a lullaby in your agreement. I live now in a town where no one knows the sound of the mesa, Phoenix, big city, lots of lights, lots of noise. The kind of place where you can disappear into crowds and forget about dark mesas and things that learn your voice. But sometimes at night I wake because some familiar rhythm hums under my skin. Sometimes a song comes across the radio in a voice that sounds like the inside of my own throat. For a second, everything loosens. I have a family now. Married a woman named Sarah who doesn't ask too many questions about why I check the locks 3 times before bed, why I don't answer the phone after dark, why I make her verify it's really her when she calls me from work. She thinks it's quirky. I let her think that. Lila has kids who don't know the shape of the old fort. 2 boys, 7 and 9, same age as we were. I watch them play, and my chest gets tight. I teach them the small rules the town taught me. Answer twice. Check the porch. Do not open for voices at night. Why? The oldest asks. Because some things pretend, I tell him. Sarah laughs. Thinks I'm being dramatic, teaching them stranger danger through spooky stories. I'm not being dramatic. I teach them to be careful. Last year, Lila called me at 2 in the morning. She was crying. I heard him, she said. I heard Jace. He was outside my window calling my name. Did you answer? No, but I wanted to. God, I wanted to so bad. I drove to her house, sat with her until dawn. We didn't talk much, just sat there with all the lights on, drinking coffee, remembering how to breathe. In the morning, there were marks on her window, long scratches, like fingers dragging down the glass. We don't talk about it with our spouses. They wouldn't understand. How could they? We sound crazy even to ourselves sometimes. But there are nights, bone-cold nights, when wind lifts the edges of the world, and in the corner of my sleep I hear my brother laughing and a woman humming the washing day song, all braided together. I don't open the door. I've learned to hold my mouth closed like a fist over my name. Dad died 3 years after the mesa. Hospital finally. His back never healed right from when the thing held him. He couldn't remember us at the end. Kept asking for Ma. Kept saying he heard her voice in the hallway. Nurses said it was the morphine. I knew better. The day he died, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. Hello, I said. Silence on the other end, then breathing, then Ma's voice. Baby, is that you? I hung up, threw the phone across the room. Sarah found me sitting in the bathroom with my hands over my ears. What happened? She asked. Wrong number, I said. Sometimes I dream of the fort. In the dream it's whole and warm. Jace is there, younger than I remember, grinning with teeth like small clipped knives. He waves at me. Calls, come on. The bean can lantern is lit. The mattress is clean. Ma's sitting there with a sandwich. Dad's telling a joke. Lila's laughing. It's perfect. Too perfect. In the dream, I know it's wrong, but I want it anyway. Want it so bad my chest aches. Want to step into that fort and curl up on that mattress and pretend the years between never happened. Come on, Jace says again. We're waiting for you. That's when I notice their eyes. All of them. Empty. Reflecting the lantern light like broken pennies. That's when I notice their mouths don't quite match their words. That's when I notice the scraping sound outside the fort, getting closer. The dream is bait. When I wake, I feel a small, terrible, empty place where a laugh used to be. I keep a scrap of his shirt rolled in my palm, sometimes press it to my face and pretend the smell is enough. It never is. I checked with the reservation last month, called the tribal police, asked if there'd been any reports, any missing persons, any strange calls. The officer was quiet for a long time. You from around here? He asked. Used to be. Then you know not to ask questions like that. He hung up. I looked it up anyway, online. Missing persons reports from that area. The numbers are higher than they should be, way higher. People disappearing without a trace, cars found abandoned. Phones still inside with the last call made to themselves. Nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to admit what's out there. But I know. And now you know too. If you come to the mesa, and you shouldn't, but if you do, remember this. Things that copy you are patient. They will take your rhythm, learn your pauses, call in a voice that makes you soften. They have time, all the time in the world, and they never forget a voice once they learn it. Do not answer if a woman sings your name from dark. Do not step out for a missing dog when neighbors call. Keep doors locked. Keep the radio off after midnight. Trust nothing that sounds familiar in the dark. If by some cruel twist you hear a voice in the night that sounds exactly like someone you love, speak into the dark a line no one else knows, a silly secret, a child's counting rhyme. If the voice cannot mimic that private spark, you will have invited nothing into the hush. If it answers, the answer will not be a voice. It will be a lesson you live through. There is no tidy ending to our story. Jace never came home. Ma never came back. Some nights when the moon is low, I think I can hear scraping on the mesa. I think I can hear a choir practicing my town's lullabies and learning how to fold our neighbors into its mouth. It wants voices. It will keep learning. Sometimes I remember the first night in the fort, how ridiculous we felt, how small and bright that little lantern could be. I sit with that memory until it softens the horror like rubbing an aching thumb. The last thing I heard before the thing took Jace wasn't a scream. It was him laughing. He sounded like he always did, delighted, reckless, already working on a joke. It was the exact sound of the boy I loved. The thing copied it, folded it into its chorus. Now when wind comes off the mesa, the laugh rides on air like a bird I cannot catch. Folklore note. The Navajo tell stories of the Yi-Naldlushi, skinwalkers, witches who wore the pelts of animals and learned to become them. But the old stories say something people forget. Skinwalkers don't just wear skins. They wear voices. They wear faces. They wear the small habits that make you who you are. The elders teach that you never answer a call at night, even if it sounds like your mother. You never go to a voice in the dark, even if it uses your name. Because once a skinwalker learns how you sound when you're afraid, when you're in love, when you're calling for help, it owns that. It can use that forever. There are rules in the old stories, rules people used to follow before electricity made them feel safe, before locked doors made them think walls could keep out things that don't need doors. Never teach a thing your name. Never let it see you grieve. Never answer the first time it calls. The stories say skinwalkers are made, not born. Someone chooses that path, kills someone they love, wears their skin, crosses a line that can't be uncrossed. But what the stories don't always say, what the elders whisper when the young people aren't listening, is that skinwalkers are patient. They don't take you in one night. They study you, learn you. Practice being you until they can slip into your life like a key into a lock. They wait until you're tired, until you're grieving, until you want so badly to hear your mother's voice that you forget to check if the voice is real. That's when they take you. Not with claws. With the exact right words, in the exact right voice, at the exact right time. The mesa outside that New Mexico town still stands. The fort is long gone, turned to dust and memory, but people in that area still follow the rules, still lock their doors at night, still teach their children, never answer a voice in the dark, no matter how much it sounds like home, because the skinwalker is still there, still learning, still patient, and it remembers every voice it ever heard, every name it ever learned, every face it ever copied. It's waiting for you to forget the rules, waiting for you to answer, waiting to teach you what it means when something that should not know your voice calls you by name in the dark, and you exhausted, grieving, desperate, finally say yes. Well, boys and ghouls, that wraps up another terrorific tale from the vault. I hope you didn't answer any strange calls during that story. If you did, well, you might want to check if that voice knew your childhood counting rhyme. If this story crawled under your skin the right way, hit that subscribe button. New creature features drop every day, and trust me, tomorrow's even nastier. Leave a like if you're double-checking that your doors are locked right now, and drop a comment where are you watching from, what cryptid haunts your neck of the woods. Have you ever heard something call your name at night in a voice you recognized? I'm always hunting for the next nightmare. Remember, never answer the first time something calls your name in the dark. Check twice. Verify. Because once a thing learns your voice, it owns a piece of you forever. Until next time, kiddies, keep your fires, times burning times, and your eyes on the trees. This has been Late Night Creature Feature. I'm Mr. Wendigo. Asterisk whispered asterisk in the woods are always watching.